Well, it's week 5, the first week of November, and this stands to be one of your best times to get one of your mature hitless bucks on the ground. And it's just because they're becoming more susceptible to making a mistake, and if you capitalize on that mistake, you can get one of them on the ground. A lot is changing from what we were talking about with last week and what we were concerning our trail camera strategy with last week, which was mock scrapes. And you most likely saw deer sign everywhere in the woods. A lot of scrapes, a lot of rubs opening up. And it probably got you pretty excited, and for good reason. We are approaching the first week of November. We're approaching that second week of November. It's a time, again, like we live for as whitetail hunters and bow hunters. It's just a really exciting time of year. But as we go through this and we progress through this first week of November, we're going to start seeing that trickle of the first couple of does starting to come into estrus. We're going to start seeing 1 or 2 bucks starting to lock up as they find those does. But as more and more start to come in as we approach those peak breeding dates for your state or for my state, we're not going to see a lot of scrape action. The bucks don't have to concern themselves with the scrapes anymore. So what we typically start seeing is bucks really dog does. They start bumping areas. They start scent checking where the does are, bedding areas. They go through funnels. They go through food sources. And that's where we have to change up our trail camera strategy. What I like to do this week is completely change up my trail camera strategy. I like to take all my trail cameras down, and I know you're thinking, man, that sounds crazy, or that sounds like we're gonna put a lot of human pressure on the property. But again, like I talked about last week, wait for a cold front to move through. Wait for some nasty weather to move through. Today we've got some pretty strong winds as the cold front's pushing through, giving way to cooler temperatures in the morning, kind of like what was happening last week. We don't have the rain. I don't think we're gonna get the rain, but we do have pretty strong winds, which is helping me not bump a lot of deer or run into a lot of deer if they are up on their feet. It's kind of stressing the deer out, so I can come in and move trail cameras around. But wait for a good weather system to move through. Take all of your trail cameras down. But some trail cameras, they will be in good locations for the rut. You probably have them over mock scrapes like we talked about last week, but in good locations for the rut still, and around food sources that are going to be attractive through November, around bedding areas, in transition areas, and around funnels, different topography settings in oak flats like saddles, a couple of ridges coming together, different places like that. You kind of got to realize that they are still good as we progress through November and through the rut. So keep those trail cameras there, but wait for a weather system and take all your other trail cameras down. I usually just take all of my cameras down and move them to new locations, specifically for the rut, because there's always a chance I can start catching new bucks on the property. I kind of like to think of November as bucks having no home range and no borders. You kind of generally know where mature bucks are going to be, or if there's mature bucks on the property from what you've been seeing so far. But then again, a lot of bucks can completely have new home ranges as we approach the rut. They can be there during September and October even. As soon as that rut hits, they just might scoot over to a different property, or a buck might scoot over onto your property. So there's a lot that can be changing right now, and completely changing up our trail camera strategy to good locations for the rut can benefit us a lot. I will say, however, I think this is the week, or this is the point in deer season where you kind of have to realize that you can't base all of your hunting off of trail camera information alone. You just have to realize that all deer movement across your property, you're not going to catch with your trail cameras. You could have all of your trail cameras in all the funnels, the bedding areas, and the food sources, and you're still not going to be capturing all deer movement across your property. There's just a lot of unusual movement right now, even with bucks, dog, and does, and those does running through very common areas, right through funnels, right along deer runs. You're still not going to catch everything, especially when we start getting into that lockdown phase. They're going to be locked down in pretty unusual areas. You're going to start seeing bucks in backyards, held up in little wood lots. You're just going to start seeing them everywhere, keeping those hot does away from all the other bucks. So there's a lot of unusual movement right now. And this is the week where you just need to go hunting and get in the woods again on those good days. High pressure, cold fronts moving through, the right wind for that stand location. Try to hunt in areas where you know mature bucks are, based off the trail camera data that you have this year, or based on the trail camera data that you have over previous years if you know deer are going to start bumping over to your property, or if you don't have any bucks this year and you don't think that there are going to be mature bucks bumping over to your property, or dogging does through your property, chasing does, then go ahead and move properties or go with a different strategy completely. Right now I'm actually filming in a funnel that we've really taken notice of the past couple of years. We've been hunting this 7-acre property for about 5 years now. We've had pretty good success in and around this funnel on this particular property, using the same strategies that I'm talking about today. But this particular location, we've had a lot of deer movement through. Practically every one of my hit list bucks that I've ever had on this property have worked their way through this funnel at some point or another in November. We've actually got a cherry tree that we hung some stands in last year when I was hunting with my fiance, and we had some pretty good luck. We saw a lot of deer movement through here, just not particularly anything that we wanted to shoot. But we've got one tree probably in this entire area that we can actually hunt. It's just a big locust grove that kind of has a big trail running right through the middle of it. Bedding areas on either side, food source not too far away. It just seems like a major highway for all bucks crisscrossing the property. They have to come through here. There's a couple of really big scrapes that I set up last year that they worked pretty hard. So this is one of those areas that we definitely have to put a trail camera in. And I think this is a pretty good stopping point for what I really wanted to talk about today. But it's trail camera settings when you're placing these trail cameras in these locations for the rut. Now, I just did get done saying that this is probably the week or the turning point in deer season where we're not relying as much on trail camera information for our hunting. We just got to simply be in the woods, and we can get pretty lucky as long as we know a general area. But that doesn't mean we can't do the best we can, because you're still going to rely pretty heavily on this information that your trail cameras do gather during this time, even for next year. Even if it's capturing bucks, say 2-year-olds or some 3-year-olds that are going to be on your hit list next year, you're going to be able to get some information out of it, or just information regarding next year's rut, where you should place your tree stands and where you should be hunting based on deer movement this year. There's still very good information to be caught during this time, but I see a lot of people mess up when it comes to the trail camera settings and how they're setting up the trail cameras for the November rut. And it mainly has to do with either one, their type of trail camera that they have, not having the right type of settings, they're not setting up the trail camera correctly, or they're just not simply putting them or taking the time to put the trail cameras on the right settings. I think a lot of this mistake has to do with what we're actually seeing during this time as far as deer movement is concerned, as far as deer behavior is concerned. Before, you can get away with the default settings on a trail camera, or just simply putting it on a 3-photo burst with a 10-second delay, or just a 30-second video mode with a minute delay. A lot of people could get away with that previously on over mock scrapes or over food sources, or just on a deer hunt, or deer are really just taking their time. But as far as November is concerned, as far as the rut's concerned, it's pretty frantic movement. They're going and they're passing through areas pretty fast. Say you have one doe walk through or run through, and you've got 1, 2, maybe even 3 or 4 different bucks, if she is hot, running through there. So just a regular trail camera, simply turning it on with a 3-photo burst, is not going to capture all that information. They're actually probably missing a lot of information back previously over those food sources and over those mock scrapes. But as far as the rut is concerned, you can miss a heck of a lot more just because of what type of deer movement and what type of deer behavior you're actually going to be catching during this time. I think this is really the situation or the time of year that muddy trail cameras really stand out to me above other trail cameras, just simply due to what kind of settings they have for the hunter. It doesn't matter if you're a photo guy or a video guy like me. I love watching deer behavior, love hearing that audio, especially this time of year. If I see a doe looking back and I hear tending grunts and I hear bucks walking, or if I hear fighting in the background, at least know what's going on when I have that audio. But it doesn't matter if you're a photo guy or a video guy. Again, muddy trail cameras, they have a 6-photo burst, and with a low delay you can still get all those bucks chasing that doe or working through that funnel. And my personal favorite is the 2-minute video on the trail cameras. I have a very, very long video period where I can get that doe that sets off the camera, but then I can get all those bucks following her. Again, I get the audio that comes with it. So dialing in your trail camera settings to what's actually going on this time of year. You need to have a pretty fast trigger speed. You need to have a very long sequence of either photos or a very long video that can capture everything moving through. Again, put it on the 10-second delay or less delay, so you can get fast movement, because deer are going to be really moving through, especially if you put it over a funnel like we have here. Now, beyond the actual trail camera settings, you have to be cautious of how you're setting the trail camera up. We're actually going to be setting up a trail camera here on this funnel today. I'm pretty excited. I've had trail cameras here in the past. I've caught good deer movement, but don't make the mistake I do. Actually be paying attention, actually be cautious of how you're setting the trail camera up. Wasn't paying attention when I set the trail camera up here last year, and I put it right in front of the deer's face, right at about eye level, and I actually turned around a couple of bucks when they got spooked by that trail camera right in front of their face. So what you want to do when you're setting them up on a run, or set them up on a funnel especially, or even around food sources, or even around bedding areas, you're probably most likely going to set them up on a run, but don't put them right in front of or right on that trail. Don't put them perpendicular, because you're only going to get a split second of that deer passing through. Set it up at about a 45-degree angle, and I like to get my cameras up a little bit higher than, let's say, breast height or head height. I like to put them up about as high as I can reach, because it's not in that deer's immediate peripheral vision. They're not going to get spooked by it when it's right in front of their face. If it's up a little bit, they're not going to really notice it, but you're still going to get a lot of those deer moving through. And when it's at a 45-degree angle like that, you're still going to be able to get quite a bit of that deer movement as they come through this run. Just remember, as you are putting up trail cameras this week and all throughout November, just make sure you're paying attention to how you're setting the trail camera up, where it's aiming, what kind of settings you have it on. I honestly just go ahead and run a test run. Go ahead and turn the camera on, act like I'm going to be leaving, set up everything perfectly, but go ahead and walk through that run or walk through that funnel just as a deer would, and go ahead and pull that card, plug it into the laptop or whatever I have to check the card. Make sure everything's working, make sure my settings took, making sure I don't have to move the camera side to side, up and down. It just really helps to get as much information as you can during this time. Like I said before, it's not absolutely critical for this year, just as long as you're in the ballpark of where a mature buck will be, with as much movement as he's going to be doing during the rut, you're probably going to be successful. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't try our best to get the information that we can, because it might be very beneficial for next year as far as learning what kind of movement your bucks are doing through this particular location or around that food source, around the bedding area. November is a great time of year. It's a pretty exciting time of year, but it's also a dangerous time of year. As we go through this first week and the second week of November, make sure you're always wearing your safety harness. Be safe out there. Get home to your family. Get home to what matters most. And stay safe out there, and good luck to you this November.